Ladies, hi. Are you concerned about your finances, especially in light of what's going on? Are you concerned about your retirement, your future? Are you baffled and confused by what's the difference between X and Y or A, B, and C? Well, today we have a great speaker. This is Gail Davis. I'm your host. I am the founder of the Endless Mountains Empowerment Summit, and we're bringing you 21 days of virtual empowerment. Today's speaker is Joanne Johnson. She's a financial advisor with Let's Go Financial Services in Binghamton, New York. She's got a wealth of information to share with you, and we're going to have some dialogues going back and forth. And Joanne, I just wanted to thank you so much for being a part of today's program and for helping our ladies. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Teach us financial foundations. Teach us how to build wealth. Teach us everything there is to know in the next 25 minutes.
Thank you, Gail. And good morning, everyone. And I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to be able to come to you in this format, even though it was not the original intended format, but we're still able to get this information out there to each of you. My name again is Joanne Johnson, and I have been in the finance industry for over 20 years now. And throughout the course of my career, the one thing that has become very apparent to me is the lack of understanding and education around finances and the difficulty that can come out of trying to navigate those areas for the general public. So I put together this presentation, and I want to start by just going into a few facts surrounding women and finances. So at this point in time, women have more accumulated wealth than we ever have had historically. However, we tend to have less accumulated savings when we get to retirement than that of men. And so in the next 10 years, 70% of the inherited wealth in the world is going to be going to women. And that is a huge number, which means we need to know what we're doing and how to navigate some of these things and how to make proper educated decisions when it comes to our money. And one of the other things that puts us a little bit behind the curve than that of men is that we have more career interruptions. So when it becomes time for us to take care of a family member or raise our children, we tend to be the ones that take the time off when compared to the amount of time that men take career breaks. We also tend to pursue more graduate degrees than men, which puts us into the workforce a little bit later. And then we come into the workforce with a little bit more student debt. So we're behind the curve again. And if you add into that the gender pay gap, you know, these things are all working against us in a lot of ways. So what does that mean for us? That means we need a plan. So today we're going to go over a couple of different things step by step. And we're going to prepare a budget. We're going to talk about savings and what to do with it. And what are the different options and how do you figure out which ones are right for you? So with step one, we're going to look at a mock budget I put together. One of the simplest and easiest places to start is to look at 1 month's bank statement. So this will help you to gather a starting point, find out where you're spending, where your biggest expenses are in compared to your income, and where to find some extra savings. So in the example here, I have food broken out, entertainment, and we're going to talk about credit cards a little bit. If you receive a paper statement from your bank, I will include at the end of this presentation, there's going to be a budget sheet to download and print out for you to use. Some other options to break out your spending and figure out where it's at are built into a lot of the online banking apps out there that you may already be using. So just check it out, see if it's already there for you to use. And if not, we can do it the old-fashioned way and put it down on paper. So the first thing I want to talk about is food. Food can be one of the biggest expenses within your budget. And it doesn't just mean your weekly grocery bill. We're also looking at eating out or buying our lunches on our lunch breaks or stopping to get that coffee and donut on the way to work. these things can really add up. So if you take that category and you add them all up, take a look at them. And on the example here, we're spending $406.01 a month on food. And of that, 130 of it and 78 cents is eating out. So think about it. Look at your list when you add yours up. How much of that do you really need to be spending? Do you need to stop at Starbucks each day on the way to work? Do you need to buy your lunch every day? And are you eating out a lot after work? Are you stopping, to pick up Chinese or fast food on the way home because it's one of those nights where you just don't feel like cooking? As long as that's not every night, then that's okay. We all do it. But if it's something that's getting to be habitual, it might be an area you can look at to cut back on. And especially, those lunches, you can prepare before you do your grocery shopping and think about what would you like to take for lunches. And I'm not saying completely stop eating out. I'm just saying maybe in moderation, cut back 2 or 3 times, especially something as simple as your coffee, because that can cost you like $8 or $10 a day, depending on where you're going. If you cut out 2 or 3 days, that's almost $30 savings right there. So just some things to think about. The next category I want to look at is entertainment.
Oops, sorry.
So entertainment is going to be things like memberships, things that you go to do for fun, disposable income items. And is there anything there that you may be overspending in? Memberships can be a big drawdown because we sign up for something with great intentions, and then after a while it weans off. On the example here, I have Regal Theaters on there, and that's a movie membership, and $22 a month per person. You can go see as many movies as you want. And if you think about it, one trip to the movie theater after you've bought your popcorn and your drink is $22 alone. So if you're an avid moviegoer, the membership's a good idea. But is it a year later and you're no longer going as often as you used to? For example, this month, I don't think any of us will be going to the movie theater because we just can't right now. Same with gym memberships or possibly online streaming services. Which ones are you using and which ones aren't you? And are there any that you can get rid of? And if it's something you're not using anymore and you don't plan on, rebooting it once you realize you're not using it anymore, get rid of it. Call up and cancel it. The next area I'd like to talk about is credit cards. So on our example here, you'll see that the payments that are being made are pretty small, which tells me that you're making minimum payments. You may have more credit card debt than you might be able to handle, and that's why you're making the minimum payments. So one of the best ways to tackle credit card debt, because it can become very overwhelming and you feel like you're just spinning your wheels, is pick one of the cards, whether it be the one with the highest interest rate or the highest balance, but choose which one you want to tackle first. And continue to make the minimum payments on the ones you're not, but take any additional funds there and put it all to the one card and concentrate on getting that one paid down. Then once you've finished paying off that one, shift those additional funds over to the next card you want to concentrate on, and so forth. Typically, most people really do not need more than 2 major credit cards. There are so many different options out there now for credit cards, whether you're looking for gas miles or flight and hotels or just bonus percentage on top of your everyday spending. You can choose which card is best situated for you with the rewards. And one of the places where you can kind of get stuck is store credit cards. So you go in there and they're like, oh, if we'll give you an extra 20% off your bill today if you'll sign up for our card. They are notorious for that. They also tend to have some of the highest interest rates on them. So ask yourself, is this a place I really frequent? Am I going to really be receiving benefits from getting this card, or will my major credit card that I already have do the same thing? So try not to get caught up on those because they can be easy to get sucked into for that extra 10% off. So once you've taken a look at your budget and you've figured out that you have a little bit more money to spend at the end of the month, or you can find ways to save some of that spending, the first thing we want to do before we do anything else is prepare an emergency fund. typically the thought is most people should have 3 to 6 months savings in emergency fund. So whatever your income is for 3 to 6 months, I feel like that can be a bit of a challenge for most working people. So let's start small. Let's just try to get $500 to $1,000 sitting in a savings account as an emergency fund, so that if an emergency comes up, or the car breaks down, or your washing machine breaks down, kids have an emergency, or a trip at school that comes out of nowhere, you're not turning to the credit cards to pay for that unexpected item. You can go ahead and use your emergency fund. So be careful, though, to really think it through when you go to dip into it, and ask yourself, is this really an emergency? Should I be using this money for this expense right now? And if it is an emergency, absolutely use the money. But if it's not, then rethink it. And do make the money fairly accessible, but I'm going to challenge you a little bit. Maybe don't get a debit card or an ATM card for it. Make you yourself have to think about it before you go and dip into that money, meaning a trip to the bank to take the money out instead of just easily being able to swipe or use a card. That way it's a little less tempting to dip in there. You have to think it through a little bit more before accessing that emergency fund. And if you do need to use it, be sure the following month to start putting the money back in there to build it back up where you originally had it. These things are important. So once we have our emergency fund in place and it's set and secure for you, think about what is next that you want to save for. What are things you would really like to be able to save money up for? Is it retirement savings, college savings for your children? Is it a down payment on a house? What is your next goal, and identify that goal? And then what is the time horizon? How soon is that event that you're saving for going to come around? Is it 10 years from now? Is it 5 years from now? Because that will help distinguish what vehicle to put it in to save. And what risk are you willing to take to get a little bit better rate of return? So again, it just goes to what is that goal and how soon will you need the money? So I have some different items here I want to talk about, just so you have a general understanding of different savings vehicles. My original background is in banking, so these low risk items that you see here, our banks offer, and they are FDIC insured up to $250,000 per account title. So savings and money markets are basically the same thing. The money is not locked up, and they pay you a stated rate of interest on your money. They don't pay a huge rate of interest on your money, but your money is safe sitting there in the bank. The difference between the two is savings accounts have low minimum balances usually, or no minimum balance, whereas a money market will typically have a slightly higher minimum balance requirement, but then they pay a little bit higher interest rate. And some of them are tiered so that when you hit certain break points in your savings, they pay you a little more. Still, you're not looking at a huge return here. You're probably anywhere from 0.10 up to 1.40 right now with the way interest rates are. And that 1.4 is definitely on the high side of things. CDs are another option that you will find at your bank. They are for a stated period of time, so your money is locked up. So if you try to take the money out before that time period is up, you're going to lose some of your interest and possibly pay a penalty. Whereas with a money market or a savings account, you can go in and pull it out as needed. So again, it goes back to what is the time horizon. So if you know you're going to need the money in 2 to 3 years, you wouldn't do a CD for 5 years, because you wouldn't want to be caught up in having a penalty to pay to access that money. But again, the CD is going to pay a little bit higher interest rate than the money market or the savings typically, because you've promised to leave the money there for the bank to use on their side. So these are some of the low risk items. And the next step up from that, if you're willing to take a little bit more risk and at the advantage of earning quite a bit better rate of return, especially for long-term investments, are some of these options here. So first, stocks is where you purchase ownership in a company. So you're a stockholder, and that is the only thing that you own within a stock, is just that piece of that company. The key here is to buy the stock when it's fairly low. And then if you're looking to cash in on it, you're going to want to sell when the stock is up. So for example, right now is a great time to buy into stocks because the prices are down so much. And then you would just hang on to it until a later time when the value comes up. It is liquid. You can trade these in and out each day, as well as the next option here, bonds. Bonds are what we call a debt instrument. So it's like you're giving a loan to the municipality or the corporation in return for a stated rate of return. So an interest rate. They pay, most of them, anywhere between 2% and 4.5%. Some are at 5% right now, but they're, with our current situation, they're moving around a little bit. So again, you're only investing in one company or one municipality with both of these items. A mutual fund combines them. So a mutual fund has like a bucket, and you have stocks and bonds and other things in there, and it's a great way to balance things out. Stocks and bonds work opposite one another for the most part within the market. So when the stocks are up, the bonds are paying their stated rate of return down here. But when the stocks come down, that's when the bonds will start to pick up and pay a little bit more. So that's how you balance out and diversify your portfolio within that investment. Another option is annuities. These are insurance instruments. So they're offered by different life insurance companies and variable annuity and fixed annuity companies. There are all different kinds, but primarily there are three types. You have fixed annuities, you have variable annuities, and then you have fixed indexed. Fixed annuity is just as it says. It is going to give you a stated rate of return for a specific period of time. However, unlike mutual funds, bonds, and stocks, where you can trade in and out and they're liquid, annuities tie you up for a specific period of time, anywhere from 3 to 7 years typically. So you would not want to put money into an annuity if you knew you were going to need it within a couple of years, because there's penalties involved there. They also tend to be a little bit higher in fees, but only because they're giving you those guaranteed rates of returns on those fixed annuities. There are variable annuities, and those are just as they say. The rate is variable based on what we call sub-accounts within that annuity and how they perform. So those you will see go up and down in value based on the market. There's a little bit more risk there. And then the fixed indexed are where they say they're going to pay you a stated rate of return tied to the performance of a specific index. So the Russell 2000 or the S&P 500. And then at the end of the year, depending on how that particular index performed, you get an additional rate of interest on top of your money there. All of the annuities, though, do have surrender periods. So again, you don't want to choose that for an investment you're going to need access to right away. There are a couple exceptions there. There are what we call immediate annuities, but I don't want to get too far into the weeds there and complicate things. So once you kind of have an idea here of what these different types of things are, I want to show you some examples. So based on what your investment objective is, your time horizon, and your risk tolerance, that dictates where you're going to put your money. So in the first column there, the first objective is retirement income. And the time horizon is right now. So this is somebody that has been working for 20, 30 years, and they're ready to retire, and say they have a 401k or a 403b where they have their lump of money of retirement saved up, and they need to know what to do with that money. You can leave it where it's at typically, but then you are restricted in what it can be invested in based on the administrator of that particular program. Once you've retired, you can move that retirement money into an IRA elsewhere where you can have more liquidity as far as choosing what areas you want to invest in. One of the The best options though at retirement is going to be a single premium annuity. So this is going to provide you with income right away. They give you a stated rate of return and a stated income return that you can get off your money on a monthly basis. So if you know you're going to need income off of that money right away as you're entering retirement, this is one of the options that you can choose. One of the other options is a diversified bond portfolio, because you don't want to be taking a huge amount of risk with this money because it's your life savings now and you need it to last through retirement. So again, you have to think what's appropriate for how soon I need this money and what kind of risk I'm going to take. The next example is a new home, and you maybe are trying to save up for a down payment. So now is actually a great time to try and purchase a new home because the interest rates have dropped so much. And if you're looking to do that, you're going to want a shorter term investment here. If you're wanting to take 5 years to save up a down payment, you still, again, would want to go with a low to moderate risk item and maybe just keep that money sitting in the bank in a money market, a CD, or possibly just a low risk bond fund. That way, you know, as you're saving it, you're not losing anything off that investment. Or if you are, it's kind of up and down, but you have shorter amount of time to recover if anything happens there, but you will have some recovery. College, 529s, and UTMAs are all plans to help you save for your children's or grandchildren's college. Typically, these are great when they're started, when the child's just born. You've got 18 years for that money to grow. You're able to take a moderate to a high risk on that. In any given 10-year period within the market historically, you're always going to come out ahead. You're going to have at least 2 down years in there, history has shown us, and you're still going to come out much better than had you taken the money out along the way or gone with a less risk item. Mutual funds are a great place to put your money for college savings accounts. They have what are called age-based mutual funds. This diversifies your investment to weather the storms of the ups and downs a little bit better. And the age-based ones downgrade the risk the closer the child gets to being able to need the money. So the closer to 18 they are, the risk within that portfolio automatically rebalances itself. So there's not that risk of a huge downturn and then at the last minute losing a big portion of that investment. Great place to save for kids' college. I did that with my children, and you would be surprised. You can start very small. Most companies will allow you to start a mutual fund with $25 to $50 a month. Or you can even just do money in on birthdays, Christmas, you know, anytime you're able to plunk some money in there, but just leave it and let it build and reinvest, and you'll be surprised at how well it will grow. Retirement IRA money, when you're at the beginning of your working years, is the best place to start because you have the longevity. The first place I always say you should go to is your employer. If your employer offers any kind of 401k or 403b plan, depending where you work, definitely go there first. It's the easiest way. You don't have to think about it. They're going to pull it out of your pay prior to taking out taxes, which means you're going to be paying less in income tax on your income every year. So you have that deduction there to help you out. And again, it's on autopilot and it will grow very quickly. You will see, and you don't even have to think about it. So you've got 25 years. You can really ride out all the ups and downs. And I would suggest doing, again, a combination of mutual funds, stocks, and bonds here, because that's where you're going to see the most growth. Typically within the market, the average over a 10-year period is anywhere between 7 and 8% return. And when you compare that to that of a savings account at a bank, which is you're looking at maybe 1.4%, that difference is huge when you're looking at long-term savings. So when we talk about IRAs, I just want to point out the differences because they can be fairly confusing. And if you don't understand some of the tax implications behind them, you can't make the right decision. So the pre-tax dollar IRAs are going to be your 401k, your 403bs, and your traditional IRAs, which means the contributions into your IRA come out before income tax, which means you get to take a deduction on your taxes, and you're also paying less income tax out of your paycheck each week or bi-weekly. The Roth IRA is funded by after-tax dollars. So after you've gotten your paycheck and it's gone into the bank, you can fund a Roth IRA. That means that that money's already been taxed. So when you reach retirement age, when you want to start taking income off of that IRA, you're not going to be paying any income tax on that money. These are a great option for people, and you're not tied up in there. So if something comes up during the course of, the 20 years, and you want to pull money out for something like a down payment on a house, people use them for that, you can take out your contributions, not your earnings, but your contributions, and you're not going to be paying any taxes on those withdrawals. If you go back over to the pre-tax column, if you try to take money out of any of these types of IRAs before 59 and a half, you're going to get a penalty from the IRS, and you have to pay income tax on those monies pulled out. So, you have to kind of think about it. Where do I think I'm going to be tax-wise when I retire? And although we don't have a crystal ball, am I going to be in a lower tax bracket then, or am I going to be in a higher tax bracket? And when do I want to pay taxes? Or contribute to both. Do your work plan and start a Roth. That way you have a balance there, and not all of your retirement money will be taxed when you're ready to pull it out. So anytime we're talking about investing, we want to look at the emotional side of things, and boy, are we on a roller coaster now. So when you start out investing in the beginning, you're usually optimistic and excited about what you're doing. You've set a goal for yourself. You're going to start systematically saving and investing, and you're excited and thrilled. And especially when your money's doing well and you get those quarterly statements and see that your balances are up and it's really starting to accumulate. And then of course, like last year, we had a great year. S&P was up to 28.8% by the end of the year. And so any of you who were in, moderate to growth funds really saw an uptick. So then you're feeling euphoric. You're at the top of the roller coaster ride here and everything's great. And then we start to head down and we get knocked off our heels like we have early February, and things start to go down when there's a little bit of anxiety there, and we start to think, Jesus, this is my retirement money. What's going to happen? And there may be some denial there. When this first started to happen, you thought, well, I'm just not going to look, I'm just going to ride it out. This is a long-term investment. But then as you've seen, we've really taken a tumble here. And now every day it's up and down, up and down. The panic can start to set in. If you cannot sleep at night, call your advisor or your administrator who's handling your money and tell them, can you please pull me out and put a portion of my money into something safer? Especially if you're close to retirement, you want to make sure that some of that money is protected, and if you're going to need it in the short term. Don't let it keep you up at night. You have to feel secure with where your money is at and that it's being well taken care of. However, having said that, if you are in this and you've still got another 10 plus years to go, if you have a nice, well-balanced portfolio, it's going to be okay. It's going to come back. We're not going to be here forever, and it will start to go back up again. Even when we looked at 2008, within a couple of years, people who stayed in their portfolios saw the bounce back by the end of 2009. And certainly, usually by the end of 2010, everything had recovered, but it means staying confident and sticking in there. So on the next slide, I just have an example. So if you started out in 2008 with $10,000 and you stayed in, you ended up with $18,210 by the end of 2009. But if you panicked and you pulled out, you can see here where you missed out on some of the days where the market ticked back up and you lost out on some of that growth. And again, 20 days and then 30 days and 40, you can really see here what the implications would have been. So stay the course, stay invested. You can always downgrade your risk, call your portfolio advisor and they can rebalance for you, certainly. But remember, you're in it for the long haul, because it will recover and it will come back. So on the next slide, I just want to recap. So we've talked about a lot, and hopefully I still have your attention. We've covered creating a budget, obviously, and then establishing that emergency savings and how important that is. Deciding what next and what to invest for, and then what are the different options out there. And then staying committed. It's really important that you stay committed to the goals that you set. And I'm not to say that emergencies don't come up, and sometimes we don't have to hit the restart button. There's nothing wrong with that. A few years back, I lost a job unexpectedly and I was out for 4 months. I had to hit the restart button. I had to take out my monthly budget. I had to reevaluate my spending and figure out how I was going to cover my bills until things got back to normal. That is okay. It's okay to hit the restart button. And right now, especially, you may have to do that. So we started out with how the chips are stacked against us as women and in finance. So let's look at, some of the positive things out there. As a whole, we as women tend to have better returns on our investments, anywhere from 0.4 to 1.8% better than that of men. And that may not seem like a big number, but when you're looking at 20 years of savings and you're looking at what 1.8% of that savings would be, that's a huge number, and it really makes a difference. We also tend to be more patient, believe it or not. We tend to stick in there longer. We tend to ask more questions. Kind of like, you ever been on a drive with a man and you know that you're lost and he doesn't want to pull over for directions? We will ask more questions and we will ask for more direction. We also live longer, ladies, so we're able to save more for a longer period of time than that of men, ultimately. But it is on the opposite end. Since 1970, we have increased our median income by 101%. That is 50 years. 50 years, ladies. Look how far we have come. And even though that may seem like a long time, it is a huge accomplishment, and it's going nowhere but up. We are making leaps and bounds within the workforce all the time. And that is something to be said for. And in the entire globe, we hold 33% of the wealth in comparison to men and other areas. So we are a great demographic, but statistically speaking, we're not always shopped the best by advisors looking for new clients, which is a huge detriment, because we need the advice and the guidance. And that's why I felt empowered to want to do this, because there's definitely a need out there. And so, because I'm an advisor, of course, I'm going to plug why you need an advisor. 5 reasons you need an advisor. So to help you navigate the complexity of all of these products that I've just discussed. I've only touched the surface. There's a lot of nuances within there. And certainly if you feel like you figure it out on your own, there are platforms out there where you can invest on your own and do it by yourself. But that doesn't mean you can't ask for help. Most advisors will let you come in and sit with them, take your stuff in, let them have a look and give you some suggestions. It wouldn't hurt. And then you may find that maybe you do need more help than you had originally thought. And just like you do anything else, get 2 or 3 different estimates like you would on your house. When you need a repair, shop your advisor. If you're not feeling like you jive with the first one, go see somebody else and then compare them. Compare what they're saying. Are they saying the same things? Look for the commonalities and the differences, and go with who you're comfortable, because that's really important, that you're comfortable with the person that's going to be managing and handling your money. An advisor is going to educate you. So a decent advisor is always going to try and help you understand what it is you're in and why you're making those decisions. And I've had clients that I have come in and said, whatever you think, I'm at a loss with this. You choose what you think I should be in. Well, no, I'm going to educate you a little. I want you to understand what it is you're investing in and why. I don't want you picking up your statement 2 years from now going, Why did she put me in that? I want you to understand what it is and why we made those decisions. And an advisor will help you to identify needs and concerns and know how they're going to impact your plans in ways that you may not have thought about originally. And then they'll help you to put a plan in place and guide you through different, you know, life events and things that go on throughout your life, which means it's important always to follow up with your advisor on a regular basis, whether you feel like you need to or not. There may be things there that you're not aware of that need to get tweaked or changed, or there might have been a better product that came out that's in your best interest. So just like you go to the dentist for your cleanings and you go to your tax advisor once a year to do your taxes, you should see your financial advisor at least once a year. So having said all that, I want to urge you, don't wait. This is really important. Don't wait till a crisis happens before you decide to delve into these things. Be proactive, not reactive. And a couple of the things that come up that this happens is when women go through divorce or widowhood and they don't know everything about the finances and what's going on. And that's one of the worst times to try and sit and figure it out while you're grieving or you're distraught. You want to know ahead of time, even if you're not the financial decision maker in your household, know where things are, know what they are, and how to get, access to them if you need to in case of an emergency. Ask your advisor, is everything in place as it should if something were to happen to my significant other? And do I have my beneficiary set up properly? These are all things you want to have in place ahead of time, not at the last minute. So seek guidance and always ask questions. There is no stupid question. We're always willing to explain these things to you and how they can help you. And remember, all of these changes I've talked about today don't have to be big. You can start saving small. You can start investing small. You don't have to make big changes all at once. You just have to start. So I've given you a lot to think about today. Here on the screen, you will see my contact information. I am happy to speak with anybody. There's no charge to speak to me. I will, obviously right now we're doing everything through video conferencing and over the phone. Happy to do that if anybody is wondering how to get started. I'm also including here a budget worksheet so that you can help break out that 1 month's worth of statement from your bank so you have a starting point. And the other thing I'm going to include here is what I call an asset list. So this is one piece of paper where you're going to put down where everything is located, the will, the life insurance, the bank accounts, the investment accounts, where's the deed to the house, all of those things on one piece of paper, so that if something does happen to you and you need to rely on a trusted person to handle your affairs, they only need that one piece of paper and they're not distraught over whatever's happened trying to figure out where things are. So that will be included here as well. And of course, Gail, thank you so much for letting me do this. It's been such a great opportunity, and I can't wait to get some feedback.
Oh, this is wonderful, Joanne. And some of the things that I came away with is we have to be proactive.
Right.
We have to work with a knowledgeable advisor. Don't be afraid to ask questions. We have to stay the course, but it's okay to hit a reset. And those were just some of the things I came away with. And I thank you so much for that, let alone I've understood the difference now between annuities and stocks and bonds. And anyway, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.